All right, algo learners, welcome back. We are covering simple moving average today, SMA. And so over the next couple sessions, we're going to be digging in a little deeper into SMA and learning how to build them into our own trading strategies and our own algorithms. All right, but before we get there, kind of have to start with the basics. Let's take one of the more widely known SMAs. It's the 200-day simple moving average. And so what is that? And so what you're going to see us do for each of the S&P 500 stocks, we're going to take the last 200 closing prices for each day. And we're going to be able to put that into a data set and average it, come up with the mean. And so that average price, we're going to be able to say compare it to say the current price, say in day 201. And we're going to be able to see how the current price is behaving relative to its 200-day average. But now that's just basically a fixed reference point in time. What about this moving thing? How do we get this thing to actually move? How do we put this into gear? And so a good example would be say, okay, now let's say we move forward in the day 202. And so we know the closing price for day 201. So we add that to our data set. If we did nothing further though, and just took the mean of this data set, well, we'd have 201 days. That's really not comparing apples to apples. What we really need to do is we need to go to the end of the data set and drop day one. This will allow us to have 200 days that we, again, can take the average of. And this will give us, say, 0.2, the second point that we can graph. And we can compare that, say, to the current price in day 202 and see how that's relative to this new mean data point that we have. And so all of this we can graph. And so as we do that, here is I'm going to go ahead and just create a black line and show current price over time. And so here is the current price moving again through time. And then we are going to show a green line for the 200-day simple moving average for the particular stock. And so there is the green line. And of course, one thing you'll notice, it is boring. So this 200-day simple moving average, as you would suspect, I mean, it's going to be flatter, it's going to be smoother. After all, it's an average of 200 days. So it's a much less volatile line than the current price. But what you also notice is that you'll see there are some points where the current price is quite far over its 200-day simple moving average, but there are also some points where it's quite far below the the 200-day average. So that's very important because we are going to be able to build in our algorithms to be able to see how far one gets above its own 200-day moving average and how far it gets below, and be able to calculate the percentage difference and then be able to rank those percentage differences to see which stocks are furthest above their own green line, and which, the green line meaning the 200-day simple moving average, and rank the ones that are farthest below their own 200-day simple moving average. So that will be very important as we go to build future trading strategies. Okay, here's what we need to do next. We need to go ahead and jump into Blue Shift, go to our template, open it, and let's go ahead and copy our template. Control C. Strategies, let's go ahead and create a strategy. Let's call this Moving AVG. Let's create the buy and hold. Come up to the top, Control V. And then we're going to just delete there we go. Okay. So there we have it. We have our template that's now into a new file called moving_avg. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add this function called get date time. This will come in handy a little bit later. We come down here into our initialize function. Again, we have our slippage model, which we're not going to really do anything with that. We have our list of tickers for the S&P 500. We have, as you could remember, we've converted our string list of tickers into asset list using the symbol function. This will show us how many are actually in our universe. Another thing that I want to do here, let's go ahead and call context universe. Oops. We're going to go ahead and convert our list into a data frame. So here's context universe dash D, just so, or underscore D, so we know that we're putting it into a data frame. And so we're going to use the pandas data frame index equals, and this will be our list. So basically we're putting, we're creating an empty data frame that has basically as its index each of the stock symbols, and you'll see why we're going to be doing that later. Oh, we need to add something very helpful. We're going to define the number of days in our moving average. And so we're going to go context SMA, keep on doing that, SMA window equals 200. So we can call this anytime throughout the algorithm, this context SMA underscore window, and it's going to be for 200 days. If we wanted to change it to 50, we could do that right here. If we wanted to change it to 10, we could do that right here. But we're going to keep it at 200 for this one. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead, before trading start function, what I'd like to do, let's go ahead and get our data. Let's go ahead and get the data for our moving average. And so if you remember, the before trading start function gets called at 8:45 in the morning before the trading day begins. And we'll be able to pull down all of our data for the moving average. So basically we're going to pull 200 days worth of data. It's going to be closing price. So it would be the previous day's closing price for the stock, and then 199 days in the past closing price. So we're going to pull all of that data down. And this is how we do it. We're going to call it context hist. So this is going to be a data frame, and we put context in front of it again because we want to be able to call this data throughout our algorithm. And so what we're going to do here is object history function. So we're using data and history, and our list is context universe. So remember, we have that list of all of our assets, symbols, and then we're going to pull the closing price for the last 200 days. So this is our window. Keep doing that again. And of course, we're daily, so which is 1 day. So it's basically daily bars that we're pulling down, and we're going to take the closing price. And so we're going to get 200 of these days. So it's the previous day's close and 199 days of previous closed data as well. So we're going to have 200 days of closing data. All right, and so what are we going to do with those? Okay, so let's go ahead and go into trade market open. First thing I like to do, I like to get the backtest date and time for reference and print it. It's kind of a good habit to get into. Backtest date equals, here we're going to use that get date time function. Okay, and then we're gonna, well, if I can do this right, we're gonna print all right. The other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna rename our context verse underscore data frame to make it simpler. So I just want to call it df for data frame, and this is going to equal context universe df. Okay. All right. So what are we going to do here? So I also want to show you, I want to come back up here to before trading. And right after this line of code, I want you to put this in, and we're going to run it. And because I want you to see context hist type is, we're going to go type context hist. Okay, so I know it's a data frame, but how would you know that it's a data frame? How can you verify that context hist is a data frame? Well, that's this type function here that allows you to put in, your basically your variable, and that will tell you what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and just run this right now. And we're just going to use February 11th. Plus, it's good every now and then to just run it, see if you have any syntax errors through it. Okay, so no issues. Okay, the 483, what's that all about? Remember, in the initialize function, we printed our length of the context universe. It was not 500 stocks. It's 483 because of the data issues. But anyway, it's 483 stocks, which is fine for our sample size. The next print that we had here was context hist type is, there it is, Pandas data frame. So the type is definitely a data frame. And then before the trade market open, here we go, 9:30, excuse me, trade market open. So it happens every day. This trade market open is called every day right at the open, okay? And so here it is. We printed our backtest date and time. And so it's 2/11, which is fine. This is February 11th, 2021, and market open at 9:30. So that just gets us going so we can kind of see what we can kind of see that we're moving in the right direction. So anyway, another thing too, let's go ahead and print data frame. Let's run it one more time. All right, so we're going to print our data frame that came from the context universe underscore data frame. And what would you expect to see here? Well, you would probably expect to see an index with a bunch of symbols. And here we go. And so columns, we have no columns yet. We have an index, and here's all of basically our 483 rows, 0 columns. Each symbol has its own row. So that's what we've defined under the DF data frame. Okay, I'm going to come back. I'm going to pound this out here because I don't need it anymore. But in case I want to look at it down the road, I can. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a series of data for each of our stocks. All right, so here we go. So we're going to call SMA. So simple moving average is going to equal our context hist. All right, context hist. And here's the magic dot mean. And we do the open and close parens. So it's going to do this for every stock in our, basically in our list. Okay, and it's going to give us a series. How do I know it's a series? A series of numbers called SMA for each of the stock. Well, let's go ahead and print SMA type is, and we're going to go type SMA. All right, we're not going to run that right now, but I want you to see it. Let's pull down the current price. So now that we have the point of, for the simple moving average for the point, we're going to pull down another point. So we're going to do current price equals, instead of data history, we're going to use data current. Okay, so market just opened. So we're going to want to context universe. We're going to pull down the open price. So for our entire list of securities, we're going to pull down the open price at the market open. Okay, and we're going to put that into current underscore PX for each of the stocks. And what is this? So we're going to do current PX type is, and we're going to go type. Now look, would I normally have you do this, this current type is, and does that have any bearing on your algorithm? No, it doesn't. But we're trying to learn here, and we're trying to see what some of these data points are. We're trying to understand, are things a series? Are things a data frame? What are they? And so when you hear me say we're going to, put this series into a column, into a data frame, it gives you a little bit more of a reference point. But I want you to see what these are as we're making them. And let's do this one. Above SMA equals, okay, so let's say if we have the current price is greater than the SMA. All right. And so what's going to happen here? So we're basically we're creating this series above underscore SMA, and it's going to be a Boolean. It's going to return either true or false. And so if the current price is greater than the SMA, then it's going to return a true. If it's not, it's going to return a false. Okay, we can also make one for below. Now, I recognize there are some simpler ways to do this, but we're just going to go with this so you can understand. Okay, less than SMA. So now if it's, here's another Boolean, and if the current price is less than the SMA, then it's going to be true. And so then in the series, basically when we look at the series, it's going to have a bunch of true, false, whatever the data point is for each of the stocks. Okay. And you'll never have one where you'll never have a stock where the above underscore SMA is true and the below underscore SMA are true at the same time. So this is something that we're trying to create and take a look at. All right, and then here we go. Print above SMA type is type above SMA, and I'm going to print below SMA type is type below SMA. Okay, so we've got some data here. Let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to go ahead and run this. So we created some series of data for each of our stocks. All right, so here we go. So we saw context, his type is a data frame. Of course, here's our time, basically our backtest date and time. And then, okay, here's the 4 different series. And so the SMA, what is that? Well, it's a series. What is current underscore PX price? That's a series. Above dash SMA or underscore SMA, it's a series, and so forth. It's a series. So that's easily understood that it's a series, because basically what you have is you have these data points for each of the stocks. What we're going to do next, though, is we're going to add these series into basically into the data frame. We're going to create columns and populate those columns in the data frame with these series. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let me come up here. We're going to add all series to the data frame. Okay, so here, remember our data frame, right? DF. But what we're going to do is we're going to do bracket, single quote, and let's start with SMA. So this is the name of our column. We're going to go ahead and name our column SMA. And we're going to, of course, set it equal to the series SMA. So now we have a column in our data frame that's going to have all of this data that's going to be populated into it. The next column that we want to create, well, we want to go ahead and create one that is called current price. Now, I don't have to, I could just do it current price. Why don't I do that? And so current price equals, well, what's our series name? Right there. And then we're going to create another data frame. And this is, of course, you get it. You get the tune here. It's above SMA. And what is that? Well, it's above underscore SMA. And then we have another data frame column that we're going to create called below SMA. And then we're going to assign it all of the series data for below SMA. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to print the data frame. All right. So then you're going to be able to see what has transpired. Remember, last time we printed it, all it was just the index of all of the symbols. Now let's go ahead and run it now. All right. All right, here we go. So again, we go through all of our what our types are, and then but now here's the data frame. So the data frame is starting right here below this line right here, and then here we go 3M, and so here's the SMA point. So basically the closing prices for the last 200 days. You average them all up. It's 160.05, etc. The current price, so this is basically the opening price on 2/11 at 9:30 in the morning. Here's the opening price for 3M, 179.81. And so here, remember our next column was, is it above the SMA? Well, there it is. Our current price is definitely above the 200 moving day average. And so that's true. Is it below? Well, we would assume that it's going to be false, but we already made that check. Okay, and so let's go ahead and, oh, here's one. So let's go ahead and APD. And so here we go. Here is its 200-day moving average is sitting at 268.73, but the current price is 255. And so is it above its SMA? False. It's not. Is it below the SMA? True. Okay. All right. So we have this data frame, and you can kind of see how it goes through, and then you can understand which stocks are currently above their 200 moving day average, which ones are below, and we can go from there. And there you have it. If you've liked this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Upcoming session is going to, basically, we're going to code the algo to find the average percent of S&P 500 stocks that are above their 200-day moving average over any given time period. And so that will help lead us into our trading strategy. Anyhow, remember, you got this.